concept.
Alright.
Monetization.
Welcome to Scratchbac Livestream.
Scratchbac
I am your host, Jeremy.
You're the host.
She is the host.
Oh, she's the host. She's the host.
Hi, everybody. We are Scratchbac. Hi. I don't think I many people tuning in, but this will be seen by other people in the future, so please.
It's for time capsule for this.
Yes. Okay, let's start with our great leader, Jerry. Why don't you introduce yourself, your background? What is it you do with Scratchbac?
Great leader sounds like some North Korean thing.
It's the mouse, the green mouse.
Okay, let me take a look.
What's the dome?
Introduce yourself first.
Introduction. I'm Jerry Neo. I'm one of the co-founders of this team, and I'm also the team lead. My background is in clean energy and also computer engineering. So I last graduated in SUTD with a master's in technology entrepreneurship and ComEng. Milestones in your journey / career.
The long march.
Oh, this is nothing to do with Scratchbac, is it?
I mean, you can share with what you were doing before you got to this stage.
What I was doing. So after national after poly,
The long march. Okay, the long march begins.
I signed on as a young aspiring pilot of the Singapore Air Force, and my plane crashed.
No, it didn't. I don't remember that from news.
I went to SUTD, and I don't know. We started this because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah.
Whoa, that's very bad. What happened?
Touch on. The SUTD part is insignificant.
Whoa,
We just jump straight.
You're making SSD marketing tomorrow. Come on.
Okay, anyways, we started Scratchbac because of the COVID-19 pandemic, as I think most of our users already know. So the official story that we write on our blogs and our website is that during the circuit breaker period, we were all cooped up at home. And so we felt that there's this disconnect with our community, and we thought, what if we can connect with them easily, which is the genesis of this idea. And then I contacted Cheryl and Princeton, our original team, and we started the bot, to test this idea. And then very quickly we grew to a significant chunk of users, and then we realized a lot of problems with the bot, which is why we are moving on to our own app, which we'll touch on later on. Yeah, so that's pretty much me and Scratchbac is like the same. So
So what is it? I mean, you do like ComEng and all this like weird stuff. So what is it you do here at Scratchbac?
Oh, I am mostly the ideas guy and also the Chong Sua guy, the guy that pulls everybody along to chase a unrealistic dream, right? I think a lot of times you need that person to just keep on doing it or just pushing everybody along. So I guess I'm that guy. More technically or day to day, what I do is I talk to users on the board, and if they have any issues, I help them. So front facing. I'm also front facing to potential partners, be it commercial partners or government bodies or potential investors. So I talk to them, I email them. So that's my second function. My third function is to make sure that this ship doesn't sink. So I do projection, how much money we need, how much we need to raise, that kind of stuff. And then lastly, I also double as a UI tester for our app. So Cheryl will design, I will discuss with Cheryl, like make some sketches, and then Cheryl will do the hard lifting design work, and then subsequently I test those UI with our users. So I think in a nutshell, that's what I do. Yeah.
Wow,
That's a lot of stuff.
Cheryl, so what do you do?
What do I do? I'm Cheryl, and my background is I did mechanical engineering in university, but I kind of moved on from that and I pursued my master's in design science. So here on the team, I do all the design work, and that involves everything from UI UX to marketing to product features, all these things. So every piece of marketing that goes out, everything is me. It's a lot, but yeah, I mean that's a startup, right? That's how you make it work. You just do what needs to get done. Okay. So that's me and Jerry, and then we have our dev dev team over here. So maybe you can take on introducing yourself, your background, and what is it that you do as Scratchbac.
Yeah, Princeton, what do you do?
Hi everyone, I'm Vincent. So my background is I'm currently still studying in SUT under what they call the new pillar, which is computer science and design. Yeah, so basically studying information systems. What I mostly do on Scratchbac is I try my best to help the two of them in terms of what they want to present, be it marketing materials and what they want to, how they want to architect the user experience on the Telegram board. So I handle all of the Telegram board operations, who we want to send to, what are some things that we want to test quickly with the users and see how you guys would experience what ideas we have. On top of that, I'm also working on the app, the front end side of the app. So that is mostly how the app feels, what components go inside the app, and deploy it to the various app store and Play Store. So that's mostly my part. Yeah. And the back end side, I will need someone else with a lot of expertise and a lot of experience under that front to help bolster that. Right? And that guy is my man here, Bala.
Yep. On the back part of Scratchbac. Oh, right. My name is Bala. I'm actually Prince's classmate from year 1, and then I'm doing engineering product development, a bit like mechanical, electrical, a bit of everything, right? And mostly what I do with Scratchbac is, of course, as the back part of it, I'm building a lot of the systems which support all the interactions you guys have every day. So it's a bit like architecting the systems for enabling data handling, right? Data management, and also all the interactions have effects digitally, right? It's like basically managing the digital aspects of building the stack and ensuring robustness in the future forward movingness of a lot of the future proposals which are coming from Cheryl, Jerry, or the idea churning becoming reality, right? So a bit like a sculptor getting the marble ready, chipping away at it, right? Making a perfect Michelangelo David kind of statue kind of thing, right? over time.
Very cool. Okay, so maybe you can chat a bit about how the idea of Scratchbac came about. I think it started mostly with this over here, so maybe you can share how the idea came to you guys.
Yeah, tell us the grandmother story.
I think the idea is not new. Many people have wanted to done something like this before, and even in our case, we independently came up with something similar. So I'll go first, and then later Princeton will go. In my case, it was during the COVID-19 circuit breaker period, and I just came back from the United States because of the pandemic. The Ministry of Education clawed back all their overseas exchange students. So I was one of them, and I was clawed back. And I was at home, and I was attending US classes in my bedroom across time zones. So I felt that from a very vibrant community that I was experiencing in San Francisco to being cooped up at home alone, and then waking up in the middle of the night doing classes, I felt that disparity was very huge. And I felt that because of the pandemic, we are getting less in touch with those around us, especially our community members. So, and then also around during that time, right, because of the circuit breaker measures, we weren't allowed to visit our extended families. So, and then my grandmother, she always liked to go grocery shopping, and she liked to buy a 10 kg rice set. So we felt that it is risky to meet her every week to help her do grocery shopping. We rather use like shopping services, online shopping services. That was really the aha moment, because online shopping services is hard for elderlies to use, right? So I was thinking, what if we can just reach out to her neighbors that can help her to buy and leave it outside of her house? And what is an easy way to do so? So maybe a platform that can help you to reach out those around you can do something like this. And I discussed the idea with Cheryl, and then we came out with a lot of other use cases, like when you are supposed to be at home to receive your packages, but you're not at home. Perhaps your neighbor can help you. Or if you want to do even online shopping, but there's a bulk discount. So what if you pull in your neighbors and then you do something together? So the power of proximity is what we call it now. is really very powerful. You can do a lot of things if you can connect to those around you. Yeah, so that was the genesis of the idea. So what about you?
Okay, so for me, a bit about myself and my background is like one thing I used to do, like many other Singaporean kids. When you're in JC, perhaps you have gave tuition for secondary school kids, or when in secondary school, you maybe give tuition for primary school kids. So in my family, my mom, what she does is she always talk to her friends, hey, my boy is free weekends, this holiday, she can help guide your kids a little bit here and there. It's okay, you'll just come over, we'll just have a meal, and that's it. So kind of that experience makes me who I am, someone who is quite open to reaching out to new people and sharing with them, say some of the things I've learned in school or whatnot, right? And that means that I'm, in some sense, I feel quite in touch with the people within my community, right? So aside from just giving value to these people who are, younger than me, there was an experience I remember. I was trying to decide whether to go to JC or Poly, yeah, correct. And I didn't know what to do. And as I was coming up the lift, I met my neighbor, and he happened to be. I talked to him about the problem, and then at that moment, I found out he was actually a teacher teaching in a primary school just right opposite my house, right, Zhenghua Primary. Right? And what he did was he came over to my place, and then we had like a 1-2 hour chat, and he was shared with me his story on like, oh, why did he make this decision? What are his interests and passion? What are some constraints he has? And it was like such a wonderful experience. Like instead of me going online and find, oh, should I go to JC or Poly? What happens is that I got an actual teacher who has gone through the Singapore system and has met many students who face like similar decisions. They have to make similar decisions, and he took the time to share with me something that I felt could not really be found online. And that experience I felt was wonderful, and I tried to bring that to say the students that I was teaching at that point in time as well. So that was like the first the people around me actually hold certain value, certain information that you can't really find in other areas of life, right? So that's more of the background history part of things. But me as a person, I'm also someone who really likes to explore different types of sports, basketball, fencing, pool, squash, right? And yeah, I did fencing in secondary school. I paid you guys.
SST, they had like all kinds of cutting edge stuff.
It was really expensive, but the school paid for a big portion of it, and so it was really valuable. And what happens, I remember, was distinctly, I wanted to pick up the sport, Q sports. I wanted to pick up pool. And I even bought a cue stick and I wanted to start playing. But what unfortunately happened, or maybe in hindsight, maybe fortunately, was that the two closest pool halls near my place closed down. The next nearest one was like 1 hour, 15 minutes away. I'm like, man, there's no way I can play.
1 hour, 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's really far. Right. So I'm like, oh crap, that's terrible. And I didn't really touch the sport for a good year plus. And then I was at home, one night I heard cue balls hitting like, and I'm like, oh man, is someone watching a video? Okay, that's not right. Then the sound was very genuine, it's like very loud, crystal clear, like you can hear the keyboard. Now, it turns out, as I was in the toilet, I was listening to the sound, I was trying to trace it to where it was. So I got so curious, I went down a floor or two just to figure out like which floor did someone actually invest.
Don't try this at home.
Yeah. Maybe not. But eventually, I found it. It was 2 levels down. And turns out I just bought a second-hand pool table.
Wow.
Right. Which was amazing. So I knocked on the door and asked, hey, you want to play pool or not? And it was quite scary at the point of that. But he said, yeah, bro, just call me anytime. Here's my number. And that was just awesome. And I get to play pool every other day, right? And the idea of being able to share these resources and knowing that there's such resources available right around your house, 2 floors down, one unit to the right or left, it's just such a powerful thing, especially in Singapore. And I thought, hey, how can we leverage this?
Information asymmetry.
Yeah, how leverage?
That's the word economics.
Yeah, exactly. How do you get more people to find out about this information, and how do we make it useful for them? Right. So that was kind of the genesis of the Scratchbac idea, for myself.
Very nice. Okay, anything to add, Bob? Goblin.
Wow, I mean, the story is very interesting.
So when you guys think of Scratchbac, right? I mean, clearly right now it's just like a digitelegram board. So if you all think long term, like 50 years down the road, right? Where do you guys want, or what do you picture Scratchbac as?
I think recently we also post this blog post. I wrote a blog post. Like, what is our big, hairy, audacious goal? What exactly is that? So on it, I drew the map of Singapore, and then I drew a lot of hexagons, and I also drew a globe, and also on it a lot of hexagons. So basically, you look at it, it looks like a beehive and also a soccer ball. But what does it really mean is that we want to connect people very closely in proximity. So our big, hairy, audacious goal is to connect everybody within 1 km. And what does it do? Like the ideas that we shared previously, having a really connected community unlocks a lot of potential to resources, to ideas, to knowledge. And we want to propagate that down the whole Singapore and then eventually all around the world. How does it work? You'll see just like the image that I shared, beehives and soccer balls. One major pros of having a system like this, I would think, is that information doesn't flow as fast as you see on Facebook or Twitter. Why is this a good thing? It's because this information are information that are relevant only to your proximity in your hyperlocal setting. So it doesn't make sense if, say, your local Sheng Siong have a power outage and then you post it and the whole of Singapore can see. It only makes sense to that maybe 1 km or 2 km radius. So we think that this is the key feature of Scratchbac. Information passed around very tightly or densely in a close radius.
Yeah, geography is the context.
Yeah, geography is the context.
The action step.
So Bala also has some thoughts regarding this hexagonal shape and how it relates to how the system or the code is built, right? So
Right. Well, if you look at the technology is like a mirror of the world today, right? If you look at a building today, and then like behind the building, there's people. But today, behind the building, there's also technology, right? And when you're looking at geographical spaces, the hexagonal structure which you see in beehives, right? And how they cooperate and they have a kind of a co-evolution. There's also the same thing which is happening in Scratchbac, which is the co-evolution of our technology structure, and also what actions our users do, right? Because the most important thing for us is the actions users do in real life. But we provide a scaffold, and a scaffold is basically this hexagonal wall-like structure. You think of it like a wall, but it's basically a digital wall, right? Which allows you to protect and build resources within and communicate within. And from without, you can also observe, right? And what we enable is this hexagonal shape to propagate across virtual hexagonal shapes, right? We call it geohash, right? To propagate across most of Singapore, right? Because Singapore first, right? So there's a certain fractal nature as well. So these hexagons, like I said, these are digital walls. They're not physical walls, so they can have certain properties which are a bit different, like a bit like a radio. Think of it like a matrix, and these hexagons superimposed, and you can communicate to people more closer to you, a bit further apart, a bit even more further apart. And each of these systems have different kind of properties, right? Because you're thinking about it like your people-to-people connection, right? Your networks, and these networks are more dense. That means they're more contextualized in the most local sense. Maybe within your HDB, maybe a bit longer than it, 5 or 6 blocks. Then after that, it's maybe your close neighborhood, right? And then maybe your region, like Bukit Panjang, Yio Chu Kang, right? And that enables people to have connections which are of different kind of layers, right? Layered kind of communication, which is pretty interesting. And we have listeners and double frequencies across the hexagons. But yeah, we're building towards the hexagon model. Currently, it's a bit of a rectangular implementation.
So maybe let me summarize the technology behind, right? So imagine that there are a lot of boxes. So one small box is maybe 500 meters, and then 4 boxes is 1 km by 1 km, right? And then bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's how you get the proximity of Scratchbac. So if you're in one box, you can post to 500 meters. If you are in 4 boxes, you post to 1 km. and then you add another layer, and that's how it gets bigger. But what it means is, what we did is, each of these box is like a radio frequency, and you tune into them. So if you tune into 4 of them, and then you can see what's going on in your 1 km. If you tune into 9 of them, you can see what's going on in your 1.5 km. Yeah. So the technology is quite interesting. It's not as easy as just make everybody in the same area listen to the same thing. Yeah. Bala had the opportunity to create something like this, which I also find very remarkable. Yeah.
Okay, we actually have a comment from BBU in the chat. Can I join the team?
Yeah, if you want to join a team, it's brilliant.
Yes, you can definitely join the team. Like, write in to us or just PM me on the admin account on Telegram, and then we can see how you can help us. We do need a lot of help, and after our so recently we also did a successful Kickstarter fundraiser. After that, we'll use that money to hire some people to help us. Yeah, so that we can build the app faster. Yeah, so do write in to us.
Yeah.
Hype. Okay. Yeah, actually, we did have some questions about the app as well. Like we had some people sending questions beforehand. So we actually have one question like, can we have a mobile app version of Scratchbac? It may be easier, and the older generation can use it too. So, I mean, I want to share because that is actually in the works.
Oh,
wow,
right.
surprise! Yeah.
So I'll go with this. The reason why we are moving to app-based platform is really because a lot of the UI or technological limitations of the Telegram bot. Even until today, just this morning, I have users telling me that they are not sure how to use the bot. So it is quite hard to use the bot, especially since to open a menu, you have to send /menu and so on. But if it's an application with its own dedicated button, so you press menu or you press pause, everything will be very clear cut and very simple. And when we decided to build the application, accessibility was one of our top priorities, which is why we retain big text, large clear text that are easily readable for even elderly users. And that is also the domain of Cheryl. So maybe you want to share how you design the app.
Yeah, I mean accessibility, because especially when we see from our board, we have a very diverse user base. It's not just young people, it's not just people who know English, it's actually a very diverse group. So we try to cater for as much of that. And even though our app's not out yet, but eventually when it's launched, you'll see a lot of things like Jerry said, like font sizes, even the colors that we choose, right? We have to make sure everything is very readable, very accessible. We are looking to support multiple languages in the future, all these kind of crazy things. Of course, we have our 24-hour helpline where at any time you can ping us and we will walk you through whatever help you need. So that's what we're trying to do. I mean, that's as much as we want to build a lot of things, right? We got to make use of what we have currently, which is why we have things like the hotline, which is a bit of a laborious process, but it's what is needed at this stage, and it's what we can afford at this stage in a sense. Yeah. Okay. So with this plan for this app, right? I think, to be very honest, we've been speaking about the app for quite a while. There's been a lot of talk since months and years ago.
Months of talks.
So what exactly is the current state of progress of Scratchbac, and like what is it what's coming up next? Yeah.
I'll leave this question to the damn guys.
Alright, Kristen.
Sure. Right. So, well, regarding the hotline thing that Sharon mentioned, I think it's very important. Like, for whatever tech that you're developing, it's almost impossible to cover all the use cases, right? And our users are so diverse, they're so interesting, and that they might use the bot in such a way that we don't know and we don't understand. And sometimes things might break down, right? And we appreciate all the feedback you guys been giving us. Sometimes it's a bit much, and it will take some time to reply. We might even miss out some of your feedback, but do not understand that it's very important for us to hear your voice in this, because the platform isn't possible unless you guys make it possible. So the hotline may be it's not something that we're just gonna do once we move the app. It's not something we're gonna scrape once we move the app. It's something we're gonna maintain. It's a form of communication between you guys and us that we'll do throughout, I think, the lifetime of Scratchbac. So moving on to that, we have the current app development. Like Bala said, it took quite some time because we're trying to build the app in-house. We're not gonna outsource it to Vietnam or Philippines because we believe in building some of the tech talent in-house, right? And building talent in-house means there are a lot of things to learn, a lot of hurdles to jump over. And in this during this time, I think the team has learned quite a lot of things, what not to do, what to do, right? and I think it will finally ready to push out something that we feel users would enjoy using, right? It's the best shot that we can have. And it's currently even being tested by some of the beta users. There are some features that we haven't released to them yet. We want to make sure it's a bit more robust before we do. And yeah, so the app's coming up. I think the Kickstarter plans that Toby has written up.
So we currently have a Kickstarter running. It will end in December, and then for the month of January, we'll actually open the early access version to exclusive to our Kickstarter backers. So if you want that exclusive access, go check out Kickstarter page. You might get cool hats.
The hats.
Yeah, cool hats. What color is wearing.
I think regarding the app development, right, we should also relate it back to the previous question, which is what we want Scratchbac to be in 50 years' time, right? And touching a bit on what Winston have already said, is that we want to build our own in-house talent. We believe that Singaporeans can create something on our own, right?
Yeah.
So we tried and failed for a very, very long time. Now we have gathered some in-house knowledge, and we hope that we can grow this knowledge even further. So after Kickstarter, we'll be hiring more helpers, more people who will join us in our journey, yeah, to
The Odyssey.
Scratchbac.
And so you asked about what the app would be. I think we lay out some of the potential features that you guys been telling us about on Kickstarter. If you have any more ideas, you can definitely DM us, and yeah, it's great for us, right?
Okay. I think that there are some questions about methodologies of our startup. I mean, because Scratchbac kind of started as a small project, but it's kind of seeming like we're going to scale up to something else. So what are some methodologies that you are planning to use to validate your designs for the app, like lean startup, with releasing MVPs? Yeah, I think that was also asked.
Cool. So hi Ken, I'm Jerry. So we are already using the lean startup methodology, right? The blue book that most entrepreneurs will read when they start. So in theory and in practice, it's very different. A lot of times you couldn't create something that is usable for a mass market, but in our case we did. So the very first MVP or prototype that we created was the Telegram bot, and with that we learned a lot on what the users use a connectivity tool such as Scratchbac for, what people can do when they can connect people with people around them. So we see that people use it to do group buys, to give away things, secondhand things that they don't need anymore, to create a circular economy, to borrow things, to promote their home-based businesses. So a lot of things that we are doing today are because of a lot of things that we're building into our app today is because of the learning that we did on the Telegram bot. So that's the first MVP. So the build, measure, learn cycle. Our next cycle was that we created the beta app. The app, if you are our original beta user, you have known that it looks totally different from what we have today, right? So there are, I think, a good 5 versions between the beta versions, and today we are almost there in our release. So I hope that you'll be excited to see our app coming soon. So we have another question.
I'm not too sure if you guys have realized that there are many common apps with the same function like Scratchbac. For example, there's an app called
Kopi Run. Like Kopitiam, but
So
yeah.
I am not familiar with the app called Kopi Run, but we do know of another app called Group Food. So what we want to be different in, right, is that we want to be very clear that we are proximity based. I think in a lot of apps today, in order to get users or to get more users to use it, they make it such that you can talk to everybody in Singapore or everybody in, say, New York City, which doesn't make sense to us. Because Scratchbac fundamentally is about connecting people in a hyperlocal environment. It is tough to do so. It will require a lot of effort in order to get the user density. But we believe that if we build dense user base, it will work better than, say, I can post to the whole of Singapore. It doesn't, because to us it doesn't make sense. Say that my local shopping supermarket have a deal, and I share it with the whole of Singapore. So it doesn't make sense to us. Yeah, so that's one reason. Another look at Scratchbac, or another things that we want to try to portray for Scratchbac, is a fun and young and lively vibe, as compared to a pro-social, like a community center kind of application. Yeah, because we think that the user base that needs help the most and the user base that can provide the help the most are very different type of people, right? So most of the time, the people who need help are the slightly older, right? Maybe the retirees, and the people who can go to their house and change their life up are the high energy individuals, the younger people. So how do we create a platform that can effectively accommodate all of them? If you realize today, Facebook are only for the older generations, right? Then the Instagrams are maybe for 20 to the 30s years old, and then TikTok, the younger generations will use TikTok because they are spreading fast and they're targeting a very specific age group. But in our case, our target is location, is the geography, right? So when we do Bukit Panjang or Choa Chu Kang or Tampines, we'll focus a lot on getting a range of age group that can accommodate and help one another. Yeah. So that's the differentiating factor of Scratchbac. Yeah.
Okay, no one has any other. I guess if anyone else on the stream has any other questions, do continue to send them in and we'll address them as we go. But in the meantime, maybe I'll just ask a bit about the journey of what Scratchbac has been like for you guys. So maybe you can share what has been the most rewarding part about the Scratchbac journey, and also maybe the most challenging part of it. Maybe Bala, since you were the last to join,
all right.
what do you have to say?
I mean, the road of Scratchbac is a long and narrow one because we're trying to plot, like Jerry mentioned, right? A very interesting but very tough landscape, and the terrain is such that if you slip, then you will slip into a space which is not what you want to be in, right? So having the mission directiveness and the focus, right, is very important. And we only learned to hone that over all the challenges we had, where we tried to experiment a lot because like, in a lean startup kind of environment, you want to be experimenting and making sure that you're not projecting with your own idealism onto the world. You want to be realistic and also understand what people need and build towards those goals, and also understand what the real synergies in the landscape is. And a lot of the organic behavior we saw is what inspires us to build things, right? We don't try to impose structures on it, and that's where a lot of the deeper challenges are for us, because we're trying to, like Jerry said, one of the more harder problemscapes are the fact that you need to have intensive kind of activity and action within a hyperlocal context. And towards building those ends, I think one of the most important ideas was the Telegram bot. And I think Princeton had a lot of experience having an iterative process of thinking about ideas. Like we probably went through a lot of ideas, right? Like home cooking, right? Taobao together, right? It's a lot of this. We try to be very agile in terms of agility as not a concept, but in ourselves, like essential for how we interact with the world around us, right? And quick on our toes. So that is one aspect which is very hard to do, because when you're agile, you also break things, right? You might break things internally. There's a lot of stress, like a lot of external pressures, right? And then those will compound, and you need to learn how to manage people, right? Because in the end, what matters in the center of every corporation is the vessel, which is the human, right? The humans who operate within the scape, and to bring out the best in each team member, right? So I think that's the deepest challenge, which is bringing the best out of everyone here, right? And channeling our energies towards the greater ambition, the narrow path, the narrow goal, right? And I think Jerry's leadership, right? Leadership is very important as well. I mean, the leadership is a learning journey, right? It's a journey where you grow into it and we build things together. So that's I think, an important challenge in coming, building towards greater things.
I think for me, the most rewarding part is when we fulfill our internal KPIs. And there are a few internal KPIs, right? One of it, which is the most important to us, is called social inclusion. So we measure how included our users feel they are to the community. The other one that is more something that I can feel on the ground when I talk to our users is called completion. So when a user posts something, maybe an offer or request, whether they get the completion. So I'll ask our users. Sometimes when I ask the users, do you get the thing that you wanted to borrow? Do you get the drill that you wanted to borrow? And when they say yes, then we feel really happy. Even for users who use our platform to do commercial activities like sell their homegrown home baked bread, for example. And when they do sell and they come to us and say, hey, can I post another commercial post? Then that is also really rewarding because that hyper local connectivity really works in those cases. Yeah, we currently our connectivity is at close to 50. Our conversion is close to 50%, and we hope that with more users, a higher user density, and an easy to use application, that number can go up.
Yeah, okay, I think, okay, I also request to bring the dog in, sorry. The dog is not available inside our live stream, unfortunately. But, okay.
Temperamental, the dog is.
Temperamental. Yeah, okay, we have another question from Ken as well. What funding sources have you secured or are planning to secure besides the Kickstarter?
That's interesting.
So we have spoke to a lot of investors actually, but it's very important to find an investor that aligns with your vision or your goal, right? So if you get an investor who is all about money making or revenue generation, then chances are you'll go into something that you don't want to be. Yeah, and in our journey to find somebody to support our cause, we spoke to a lot of big names. I'm not gonna name them, but at the end of the day, we really found somebody that believes in what we are doing, which is to connect people and is to change communities, make communities better. They are called Misoto, and they are running this program called Audacity. So I'm very happy to be talking to them because every time we talk to them, they only ask us, "What is your vision? How are you going to get there? What is the impact KPI?" Right? Never did they ask us about our revenue or exit strategy.
Not that we don't have those.
Yeah, we have those, right? But they really believe in the vision. So those are the people that we are talking to. On top of that, we are also talking to multiple potential angel investors, and they are looking to fund our idea as well. Yeah. What is the next question?
Okay, yeah, so we have a very kind comment from Tom as well. Hey, keep up the good work. Thank you so much for those kind words. Also, specifically, will you all look out for partners that broadcast great deals and have a similar hyper-local community-based focus? So partnering with similar apps in this space. What do you all think about that? Partnerships with
organizations, maybe institutions, right? Not just IAPs.
Yeah, not just apps, not just individuals, communities as well. So as long as we are building more utility in a hyper-local context to our end users, I think there's a room for exploration. So we have spoke to the Singapore Police Force, the RCs, local cafes,
ground-up initiatives like Friend Zone. Yeah. We work with them. Yeah.
So any of those we are interested to talk to and to grow together.
Okay. Also another question from PB. Is there a time now of when everything we've completed the app, when we've launched everything? I guess I can just briefly outline. So currently our Kickstarter is running till the end of December. Do get more friends to back us if you can. So that's December. In January, it'll be the early access for the Kickstarter backers exclusively. We'll let them try our app, and then so February we'll be fine-tuning it, making sure it's just right, and we're aiming for the end of February to do a more official launch. So, but if you want to really keep up on the latest news, you can follow us on any of our social platforms or just our board. We'll update you on the board as well. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, everything on everywhere. So just any of those platforms, you'll be able to stay updated on our upcoming milestones. Yeah. Hopefully you'll hear about it in the press too. That's what we're working on as well. Yeah. Okay, so since we have no more questions in the chat currently, maybe Princeton, we can go back to you. You can share a bit about maybe the most rewarding or the most challenging parts about Scratchbac.
Right. So I think I'll speak about the more challenging part first, and then the more fulfilling part of it. Right. So I think Mala already mentioned what we're trying to do is we're trying to change the world as a team. Right. So how do we build a robust team to do so? How do we leverage each other's strengths? I think it took us a bit of time to get there, but I think it will always be a work in progress. But I think I'm quite confident that we currently have a way of dealing with how to move forward together. Well, so that is that. In terms of what is the most fulfilling part, I think it's definitely what the stories that the users tell us, right? And I remember one of the story was quite amazing. Someone actually wrote a blog, not just a blog, she had a whole website, and then she wrote about her experience on
Maple cookies or something. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And
maybe you can outline it a bit for the people watching what I said.
actually we can we find the
You just share what you
Yeah, I'll summarize it.
And you go.
Okay, I'll summarize for you. You're so stressed. So essentially, you had a user who was interested in baking these like special cookies from like I think Canada or somewhere, like a very special recipe. And she managed to get a premix set, but basically it called for like 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. So she was like, okay, I don't really want to go and buy a full bottle of maple syrup just to use like 2 tablespoons, because then it'll sit in the fridge and not be used.
Right.
So she was like, oh, why don't I try asking for people around me? So she actually posted, not just on our app, but she posted on Olio as well, a similar kind of like food sharing app. And she got responses on both platforms, both Scratchbac and Olio, but it happened that the person who responded on Scratchbac was like living super close to her, like the next block. So she was like, wow, that's so convenient. And then she managed to get like just 2 tablespoons of maple syrup from that person. And in return, she also gave some cookies back to that person. So she actually wrote this entire blog on it. And then when we read it, we were like so stunned and like so happy and amazed that these kind of things are happening on the board. Yeah, and yeah, it's a new thing.
Yeah, so there's the stories that the users tell us that keep myself going, right? And above that, it's what I use the platform for. So actually, we can look at the statistics of what on our app, on like who posts the most, who engage users the most. And hey, I'm in the top 10. So I actually
leaderboard. The man is in the leaderboard.
Yeah, so my own experience on the platform is what gives me fulfillment. For example, I have a broken 3D printer that I didn't know what to do with it anymore, and I was able to give it away on Scratchbac to
The railway guy.
Yeah, to someone who lives around me. And turns out it's a couple who are interested in fixing broken things, right? And this guy, he was really into train, so he actually invited me up to his place, and I actually got to check out his massive train collection, right? And he shared a lot about his passion about that, and yeah, we had a good time chatting. I brought my sister along, and my sister got to meet his wife, and then she talked to her about like Hello Kitties and puzzle making, and she even gave a gift to her a puzzle set. Right, and it's kind of that kind of interactions on social media. I know users tell me, I myself use it, and that kind of validates what we're building, and that's what gives me the fulfillment. Yeah.
How about yourself?
For me, I think in terms of the most rewarding thing, it's definitely very similar to you guys, because being a startup is real tough. And there are some dark nights and there's a lot of long conversations. But definitely it's about the impact that we're having. As a very impact-driven person, like, at the end of the day, this is why I'm in a startup, this is why I'm here with this team, right? Because we want to do something that has real impact on real people. And I think that's something that Scratchbac achieves, even in the small ways. Like, I know that people, I managed to give away like extra vegetables. That's something small, right? But the fact that it was enabled by our board is, to me, very meaningful, and it's gets us through all the challenging parts, right? Which like is similar to what you guys have already shared. Working as a team, figuring out the next steps. We're young people, and there's no like roadmap to being a successful startup, right? There's a lot of people who will say that there is, but it's never so straightforward. And I guess the unknown is challenging, but it's also what makes it exciting, in a way. Okay.
Four.
Yes. Okay, I think we have one more question from Tom. It's a comment. I appreciate I'm just looking at monetizing, like selling to the highest bidders. RCs and SPFs are great resources as communities grow together.
Yeah, definitely. So I think working with the RCs moving forward will be more and more important, because we realize a lot of times, sometimes the things that our users request or seek help on are the existing committee cannot help them with. So we need to escalate those instances, those issues to some authorities. And we have worked with the SPF before. There was this case where one of our users was suicidal, and we have to contact the Singapore Police Force, a contact that we were already working on, and then they intervene timely and save that user. So working with organizations will be a key priority for us moving forward. Yeah. Yeah, any other stuff?
Actually, we have another question from someone who wrote in earlier before our live chat started. What aid does what is Scratchbac's experience with people with disabilities, and whether or not there's a certain group that we're trying to help in particular?
So if you open the board today, you go to levels, you press the menu, then you go to levels. You can see that there are certain badges that we give our users to help them use the board easier, right? And one of these badges is the disability badge, which we felt that can help these users get more attention to certain things that they want to do. For example, going to the polyclinic, buying of groceries, things like that. How we came about knowing this type of users, like I said again, it was because of the build, measure, learn cycle, which we did with the board. So users came up to us, they talk to us, they tell us that, hey, how can I tell people that I'm disabled in an easy way so that I can get more help? So because of that, we implemented that new badge, the disability badge. So our users just have to show us that, oh, they are part of the, what is that organization? DBA, right? And then we will add that badge to their username. We also do this kind of badges for our application, and perhaps we will include other types of badges as well. Yeah.
There's a SG enable people with disabilities that recently one of our users also highlighted to us. Yeah. So I think as you guys, if you guys know of more people who benefit from such a platform, to chime in and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah. All right. What's next?
Okay, I mean, that's all the questions we got. But I think maybe just to share a bit more. Maybe not just like what's quick. Or maybe, okay, let's respond a bit to the Kickstarter, right? We are very lucky to have been funded in one day. Very exciting stuff. Maybe two questions like, what's going to happen for the rest of the month, right? Because the Kickstarter is still live. You guys still seem to be collecting money. Like, what are you going to do with that? And also, once you get this sum of money, like, what exactly is this sum of money going towards? Yeah, maybe you could clarify that for everybody.
Yeah, so actually the Kickstarter campaign, right, raising $30,000 is nowhere enough to build an application, right? So today, software developer graduate earns 5 to 7K straight out of graduation, and if you want to have a team of 5 or 6 people doing an app at 5K, 7K, so how many people are there? Let's say we have 4, right? So that is what, 10,000, 30,000, $30,000 per month. So 30K is nowhere near enough to support a team like this. So the main purpose of the Kickstarter campaign was outreach, letting you guys, our users, know what we've been up to, what are the features that we are building, and also to learn whether the features that we are building make sense, right? So that's one. Another reason for the Kickstarter campaign is signaling to our investors to tell them that, oh yeah, our potential investors, to tell them that, yeah, our users are interested in our product, and some of them will pay to make their experience better on the platform.
Yeah.
Right? Then, with that said, Scratchbac is a free platform. It's totally free. You can do everything, most of the stuff, as long as you're not selling. Right? So if you're not trying to make a profit from using Scratchbac, you don't have to pay a cent. You can do everything on it. Yeah. And our idea is that if you want to use Scratchbac, the hyperlocal community, to promote your business, we will help you to do so. But you should also help us to maintain and make the community sustainable.
Stronger.
Yeah. So that's Scratchbac. Okay, now what are we going to do with that $30,000? We are going to hire interns. Yeah. As mentioned in the app. So currently the whole team is working on this, and there are certain things that we cannot focus on unless we get some help. Hiring professionals out of the picture. So we will be hiring interns to help us, and at the same time, our developers will be training them. So when they train them, is with the intention of getting them on board after the training. Right? Previously, we mentioned that we believe in the local talents. We want to groom them and train them, and then build a more robust organization within Scratchbac. Yeah.
I think I have one more question from Ken. How do you distribute the running of your startup between the four of you currently? Any changes in the foreseeable future? I'm just gonna So I think maybe you missed the introduction, so maybe you can just briefly introduce our roles again. So I'm Cheryl, and I do a lot of the UI UX, marketing, basically anything to do with design or the product itself is what I handle. Then
I'm Jerry, I'm the team lead. So I came up with the idea and then I pull everybody along. So I do a lot of front-facing work. I talk to our users, get feedback. I talk to the potential investors, talk to partners, and I also double as a UI designer. So I work with Cheryl. And then, yeah, that's me. How about you?
Well, I now represent the same tech team, so but you're both.
Okay, yeah, sure. I'm Bala. I work on the development, the backend architecture, system architecture, and also thinking of data, right? How do you scale that, make it robust, and how do we make a lot of the systems which will engage and build a lot of the deeper things we want to do in the future. So that's the backend facing system, and this one does most of the front end, right? UI, user interfaces, user experience, right, and a lot of the kind of details and etching of that. And actually, if you really think about it, it's all interdependent. Because a lot of what Cheryl does in design translates into what happens in the front end stack. Front end stack, what requires is what back end stack drives towards. And back end stack thinks about the future, Jay thinks of the future, build, everyone just build. So it's, I mean, the distinctions are fairly, permeable. So a lot of the ideas pass through all these layers.
Yeah. With that being said, any changes in the foreseeable future? Yeah. The number one problem I have in my mind is always how do we make this sustainable, right? And if today, unfortunately, touch wood, any one of us die,
Okay, all right.
big part of the
Scary now.
production,
I'm really grabbing on the good
yeah, will just disappear. So the organization is not robust to handle this kind of.
resiliency, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So after the Kickstarter campaign, currently we are already talking to some potential investors, and once we get fundings in, we will try to duplicate our roles. So the dev team will duplicate to 2 cells, and then they will start training their apprentice, right? And then the marketing and design will also get in some interns and then train them up as well. The idea is really to create a robust organization that can last anything, right? So tsunami come, we can still go ourselves.
yeah.
Pretty embryo-like we are, right? It still haven't become the whole, or the organization self-sustaining, building, and
So organization building on top of our product building, it comes together.
In terms of the four of us, none of us are going anywhere, right? No one better than you. Commit. I mean, we started this as students when we were part-time in uni, but for example, me and Jerry already graduated, right? And this is our full-time careers. So it's very important for us also that we really make this work and we're very dedicated to this. And soon they will join us, so no fear.
Good to graduate.
Yeah. Okay, I think we have another comment from Tom that's thanking us about doing so much for our community, and I note your support and listening to the people with disabilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something that at the end of the day, that's what we're here to do. Like our school motto, better world by design, right? We're from SUTD, so that's our school's motto. So I think we all really, on some level, really do resonate with it, and that's why we're here. I mean, that's why we're not rushing off to take the highest paying tech jobs. We all have engineering degrees, but here we are trying to do something very different. I think we're coming towards the end of our live stream, so if anyone has any last minute questions, do put them in the chat so that we can address them. Of course, if we happen to miss a question, we will definitely follow up with you after the fact. And anytime you want, you can DM us on Telegram and harass us and ask all your questions, and we'll do our best to answer as well. If not, any closing thoughts? Anything you want to say to the users?
Thank you so much for your support over the past 1 and something year. And we will do our best to create a product that can connect everybody within 1 km. We believe that people in proximity can unlock the power of the community. So thank you. And check out our Kickstarter. We have not already done so, and get our friends to help us as well. Because we need the backer numbers. We just need the backer numbers. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Remember to smash the notification bell.
Like, subscribe, and
Ting.
comment in the comment section.
Not that's about it. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I mean, it's a bit chaotic, and we hope we managed to address most of your questions. But anytime, just ping us. We'll stay online here. We'll just be hanging out on the camera for like maybe another 5 minutes in case any last questions are coming in. If not, thank you so much for joining us. Yayers.
Thank you for joining the Joe Rogan.
experience. Outro music.
Guys, keep it together. Let's go, camera.
Great.
Oh wow, we have more people to attend.
How do you see that?
You guys can take a look.
Where's the mic?
The mic is set to this.
Oh. Wow.
It's a very rough setup, but we try our best. Hopefully you can see us, you can hear us. Otherwise, come on. It's been a long day. Hope everyone's weekend is great. Yeah, okay, we'll just give it now at 2-3 minutes. So,
We need more water.
He needs more water. He needs to stay hydrated.
I think that's about it, but don't see any more questions coming in. So, if not, we'll check out here.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
everybody. See you next time, maybe.
Yeah.
Bye.
Oh, no, she cancelled it already.
He cancelled it.